Hi, everyone. You're with VA to VA Mastermind Live today, and we're so glad that you decided to join us. We have a guest that will be joining us in just a few minutes, and she got a little sidetracked with the link. So we're hoping that all of you have been able to find us okay. And I know some of you will also watch the replay of this, so we're very excited. As I said, we are VA to VA Mastermind Live. I am Tammy Durden with Tammy's Office Solutions, and we offer a variety of services from bookkeeping, digital marketing, virtual assistant services, and writing services. And my other partners in crime here will introduce themselves as well. Nanette, you want to take it?
Hi, my name is Nanette Telemack. I'm with, in essence, Virtual Assistants out of Newbury, New Hampshire. And good morning, everyone. I'm a generalist, so I support many different types of small businesses with their administrative, marketing, and graphic art needs.
Good morning, everyone.
And let's take it away to Lisa.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Cole with Augusta Virtual Assistants. I'm based out of Augusta, Georgia, and we offer our clients specific support, including real estate, paralegal, online marketing, and some administrative support. Thank you for joining us, and today we're going to be talking about proposals and RFPs.
Absolutely. So to get us started before our guest joins us, and I'll have Nanette introduce her when she's able to join us. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the summary of the topic that we're talking about today. As we all know that proposals and RFPs are the lifeline a lot of times to virtual assistants, to any business, really, any small business. So when we're talking about proposals and RFPs, and Tracey's going to actually answer a lot of questions for us as well. So please type in any questions you have. We'd love to hear them, and we'll be able to answer those for you, hopefully live. And if not, be sure to email us. Our page is va2va.com, and you can contact us through there. So we just don't want to miss anybody. But when we're looking for business, we may run across a request for an RFP. A lot of times, especially in certain virtual assistant directories, that is what they require and suggest that you do, is send an RFP. And then other businesses, when they call, will ask you for a proposal. So it just depends on the client and prospective client and what their idea is of what they want to receive from you. The other thing that sometimes, I don't know about y'all, but I get requests for resumes. Now, I will tell you, I don't send resumes. I just refer them to my site. I have my site. They can see what I do, as well as there's a link to what is the word I'm looking for? It just went out of my head, to a portfolio on there, so that they can see some of the work that we do as well. So, and even some of the freelancer sites as well will often ask for an RFP. So we want to be mindful of that, and we want to help you be able to do that. And especially with multi-VA companies, we need more clients than the average solopreneur VA who's doing the work. So we want to always be marketing and always be aware of what opportunities are out there for us. So companies put these out to compare best prices or cheapest prices to find the best person for the job, and that they want the ability to compare apples to apples, basically. So your proposal is often the first interaction with the client. So it's very important how you word it, how you approach it. And, but you also want to be genuine and real with them. It's your opportunity to introduce yourself, highlight some of your expertise, as well as show the client that and why you are the best candidate that you are, and why you are the best candidate for the contract that they're offering. And then it could be a lot of work, but in the end, it may, lead to a win-win. Like, it may not be a lot in the beginning, but oftentimes they try you out for one project or one thing, and then it can lead to more. And I will tell you that most often, many of my larger clients came from starting out small and just continuing to grow as they, grow with us as they grew. So being able to provide these and do these is a very important step in your business. So today we're going to discuss the whys and hows of submitting and winning RFPs and proposals, and the details of what you should and shouldn't include. And I'm going to turn this over just a little bit to Nanette, if you're okay, Nanette, because I know you've done a lot of research as well, until Tracey can join us. And then we'll talk about some of the questions and things involved too, if you don't mind. You're muted.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was dealing with trying to help Tracey get on. The research that I found was that, and I could cover why and when you would do an RFP. If you're business, and I know some VAs are, they may go to Upwork or they may go to Guru or freelance to look for work, and most times you're competing with other people, and it is there that you'd probably see our RFP request for a proposal, and you're competing with a lot of different other people. Also, there could be let's see, I know there's certain VAs that vet other VAs with clients, that's their business model. And so that's another way where you may want to do an RFP. An RFP is really your ability to make yourself stand out of the crowd, you know, to give your expertise, to tell them why you're the person that they want to do business with. So it's a good opportunity, and it's a lot of work in the beginning, and you may not, after all that work, you may not even, you know, win the deal, but it's a great opportunity to, you know, to formalize who you are, what you're about, and you know, get it out there. And you know, if you do one a month and get some business out of that, then that's a great thing.
It's good. It's a good practice to get into too, even if you're just only slightly interested in, say, a proposal or a contract. You know, it's always a good practice too to put it out there, and just to practice. You know, even if there was only a piece of it you wanted, but at least to put it out and begin to you know, get experience in that. I also meant to mention in the beginning, and I apologize, but it's very important to mention to you all today, and anybody who views this afterwards, there is somebody right now targeting, and this falls right in line with our proposals, targeting VAs, virtual assistants, and they're sending out something, an email to virtual assistants asking for, you know, our services. They say they want customer support, and they offer a nice price, like about $60 an hour. And they will say that they will pay $400 up front, and then they're going to send you a package of the materials, that's the training and everything else. And then from there you'll earn, I don't know, I think it was $1,200 a week or something. You know, it was a nice little price. And so I received one of these, and so of course, you know, I immediately thought, scam, something's wrong here. But they say they represent a very well-known company that has no ill reviews, has no scams against them or anything else, which is Mass Communications Group. They're a very well-known group. But in the email, his domain was the initials of Mass Communication, but then also another domain afterwards. And so be very careful of anything that you receive like this. When I put it in, I'm a member of Virtual Assistant Classroom University, and I posted it in there, and I couldn't believe a dozen or more had experienced this and received it. So we know they are targeting virtual assistants purposefully. And so what they do, though, then after 5 or 6 emails, I'm like trying to figure out what it is and what this is about. Finally, what happened is I said, okay, well, go ahead and let's see what the training material looks like and everything else. Well, then he says, and here it is finally, right, that I was getting to. He says, okay, so I'm sending you the 400, the package will be out. Payroll's releasing the check today. Then all you have to do once you receive the package is pay the difference of the training materials. I said, no, I will not be doing that. And then he said, well, I don't think you understand. We'll pay you that money. Right. I'm sure they will. So I, even one in our group said that she knew somebody who did it and got taken for like $300. So please, please be aware. His name, actually, he presents himself, and of course he could change it now after he knows we're aware. But the last, I think it was Michael, and it was McVee or something like that, claiming to be from Mass Communications. We have notified the company as well, so hopefully, they'll be able to do something. I don't know. But I just wanted to make you all aware of that, because as virtual assistants, we look out for one another, collaborate with each other, and you need to know and make sure that you don't get scammed for anything like that. So I apologize. I just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you so much for letting us know, Tammy. I mean, it's kind of scary. I mean, even though we know that those things happen, we don't ever really expect them to happen to us. And I spoke with a client yesterday whose mother was scammed out of many thousands of dollars. They posed as Microsoft. They went in and froze up her computer and forced her, in a sense, said that, nothing was going to happen until she called this number. She called it. She's a senior citizen. And they prompted her to authorize payments to do this, this, and this so she could get back in her computer. So now the family is reeling from the financial loss. I mean, she's feeling very vulnerable and, herself. And so they've basically, because she's in her 80s, have had to take her computer from her because they're not getting any indication that she wouldn't do it again. She was just very trusting. So we have to be on our guard and aware, especially when we are submitting RFPs and talking to clients that are not in our own area, that these things will happen, and be aware. And please share if you are approached by anyone at any point, by someone that you think has scammed you or is trying to scam you. Please get on the social networks and in the Facebook groups, and the VA groups, and let the rest of us know, because you won't be the only one.
And that takes their power away from them. You know what I mean? That takes their power from them. So, so that once we're all sharing it and everybody's aware, then, hopefully nobody else is scammed. And I see our guest has joined us, and we're so excited to have you, Tracey. I'm going to let Nanette do the introductions. And thank you for your patience in getting on today.
Hi, Tracey. I'm glad you made it. We're happy to have Tracey. Tracey, can you pronounce your last name? I don't want to mess it up.
Absolutely. It's Daviero. Just forget the apostrophe and say all the letters.
Okay, Davio. We're happy to have you. And you are a VA mentor, I understand. You're a business and marketing trainer for virtual assistants. And we're really happy to have you on to talk about on our subject, RFP, how to submit a stellar RFP, and learn more about the process and what it's about, what it's all about. I understand you have a website for anyone who needs mentoring, and that's yourvamentor.com. And we're really happy to have you on.
Thank you very much, ladies. I'm so sorry it took so long to get on. I'm not. I'm pretty tech savvy. I'm not sure quite what happened there, but the link just wasn't working, and I think getting out and coming back in was the best advice. I was following along the whole time, so I've heard everything that you've said, which is great, and just anxious to get in and start chatting.
Great. So I guess the first question I'm gonna throw out there is, I guess, why would somebody want to do an RFP? Why would you want to invest that time and energy? And when does that happen? I mean, when would you come across one?
For me, and I think Tammy spoke a little bit about this already, but one of the things that I recommend, I actually also own, in addition to owning Your VA Mentor, I own the Canadian Association of Virtual Assistants and the Global Alliance of Virtual Assistants. So I get clients asking me all the time where to find the best VAs. And so of course I point them in the direction of, you know, my own members, which is wonderful. But for years and years, I've been a VA myself for 20 years. And, you know, there are lots of really great places that have RFPs. So I also tell everybody, wherever you can find a place to submit a free RFP, do it. And so the reason I tell clients to do that is for a few reasons, but one of them is that then you're asking everybody for the same information. You know, it's really clearly laid out, or it should be, and it makes it easier to make your decisions, right? It helps you to determine exactly what you need to know from people if they're being responded to properly, and I know we'll get into that. But you know, it helps you to sort of corral what it is that you want to get from everybody, because lots of times what happens is if you post you know, on any other social forums or job boards or anything like that, and there's no structure to it, you get everybody submitting whatever they want. And particularly as the owner of an association, I do screened RFPs all the time. And so the clients then ask me to, you know, go through and pick out the best proposals instead of getting all of them. And I see some really, really sketchy kind of stuff getting submitted. And so, you know, I'm really excited to do this call, because one of the things that I talk to my members about is, you know, doing it properly and being able to give I give the clients the advice of what to post, you know, to get the information they need. But I also talk to the VAs about, this is how you need to respond to it, so that, you know, that the clients are getting your best, and everything's structured. And then it makes it easier for them to make a decision, go through and say, okay, this person has this experience, this is this person's rate, you know, all those kinds of things. So it gives it structure, I guess.
Tracy, can you tell us then, I know you talked a little bit about it, but what is the difference between a proposal versus an RFP, and what does RFP stand for?
Sure. Oh, that's an easy question. I always like it when they start with the easy ones. The RFP is a request for proposal. Okay. And proposal, which actually, that's funny, Tammy, because most people think they're the same thing, and they're not. At least to me, they're not. And so a request for proposal is when you're gathering information, you're asking people to submit you know, what they're putting in. Now, a proposal for me, and you can let me know if this is the same thing for you. I've always submitted, since I started working with a business coach back in, oh my goodness, okay, way too long ago. Anyway, 10 years ago or something like that. He suggested that I put together the information that I had discussed with a client in a proposal. And I didn't know what that was at the time. And so he said, you know, just detail all the things. And, you know, I think we'll get into this too, the scope, your availability, your rates, you know, your experience, all that kind of thing. But basically what we had talked about in a phone call, my client and I, or my potential client to me, put that into a document and then send it to them. And so this became actually my my template for responding to proposals as well, because it had all of the relevant information in it. And so when somebody's asking you for a request for proposal, they might not be looking for something as sort of detailed as a regular proposal, you know, that I would consider a full-on proposal. They may just be looking for someone to help with their social media work, or maybe just looking for someone to help with you know, a project or something like that. So maybe all the details don't need to be the same. But I've always used that template of my own to respond to RFPs, and it's been very, very helpful for me.
Yeah, that was very clear. Thank you, because I think you're correct. And I've even seen, like, Microsoft Word, if you put in proposal or something, you can get like an outline of one for those of you who have never done a proposal. And of course, it will be very long and very detailed, so you don't have to do all that. But I think that was a great thing your coach told you, and a great advice for all of our VAs out there.
Well, you know what happened with me was that I ended up getting more clients as a result of it. And truly, every time I would have a sales conversation with someone, I would say, okay, I'll send you a proposal. And what it was a step in between, you know, the conversation we had, because everybody hears things differently. Everybody takes different notes. And so it would clarify what we talked about. And then I would give the potential client, the opportunity to say, okay, well, you know, the rate for this, or the hours for this, or what if I wanted to add more of this and not have this? There was a little more of a conversation after our sales conversation. And then almost, I would say almost 100% of the people. I mean, I'll say 80 or 90 because it probably sounds more logical, but honestly, almost 100% of the people that I sent proposals to would then work with me afterwards. You know, so it was really, it became not a negotiation tool, but just a clarity tool, you know, and it was really helpful. So I highly recommend it. I think it was excellent advice too, and I thank him for it for sure.
I think that's awesome because we complain in the virtual assistant world a lot about the time it takes in between the time we talk to a client and they become a client. So sometimes that can be a great lifesaver. Nanette, I think you had a question, right?
Yeah, as we get started into talking about RFPs, what's the criteria that and that our audience should use when deciding to respond to an RFP?
I think if you're qualified for it, then, you know, you should definitely apply for it. I think if you are qualified, it'll depend on how it's worded and the different places that you see them. You know, they're definitely worded differently. But if you think that you can support the client, then there's absolutely no reason to not submit something. You know, a lot of people say that, well, I don't have my website, I don't have this, I don't have that. And honestly, I didn't have any of that when I got my very first VA client through an RFP. And all she wanted was transcription. She wanted transcript. She was a business coach and she wanted transcription of her, what was it at the time? I think it was her training modules or something like that anyway. And I just remember it. And yeah, so that was all she wanted. So I didn't need a website. I didn't need anything. I just really needed to connect with her. She wanted to know how much my rate was, what my availability was, what my experience was with it. And she wanted to know that my English, I had a handle of the English language because she was an editor in New York. And actually, I just talked to her yesterday because, oh, hold on just a second. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to plug my laptop in. Shoot, ladies. Give me 2 minutes here.
Go right ahead, Tracey, please.
Okay,
We don't want to lose you again.
I don't have my cable here, so give me, hold on just 2 seconds.
No problem. You get
just 2 seconds. I'm going to go to photo. I'll be right back.
No problem. Poor thing.
About criteria is that, I think, like she was saying, some of her seen from other VAs are a little sketchy, and I think the point of this question is that you want to make sure that you actually have the skill sets that is being requested. Don't try to fill out every RFP you can for business because you're just going to ruin your reputation. Because people are going to wonder, why are you submitting? This doesn't answer. It doesn't follow meet any of my needs. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to lie. So the criteria is that if you know this is something you are good at doing, fits your business model and your skill sets, then yes, go ahead and fill out that RFP.
Absolutely. You're so right, Nanette, because too often, I think we fall into two categories sometimes as virtual assistants. We either are not confident enough and feel like, oh, I can't reply to that, or we're overconfident and we really can't do the work. So you have to kind of find the in between and make sure you're replying to the right thing. Thank you, Tracey. Good to have you back.
I tried to be quick, but it is true, that sometimes we think that we're not qualified because we read. One of the things that I think clients are guilty of is packing everything into an RFP, right? And so if they put too many things in it, it can be really, really discouraging for people who are trying to, determine if they're able to take care of things. And so if you can do some of the things on the list, I honestly would recommend reaching out to the client saying, I have some skills, I may not have all of them, or would you still entertain a proposal? Rather than putting something together and hoping they do, just really quickly reach out and say, I'm really interested in this proposal. I have a lot of experience to help you in this area or, these 2 areas. Would you entertain the idea? So
I've even done that, Tracey, before. Said I have experience in everything and I'm willing to learn the other, so I have done that.
And in some cases, you don't have to learn it. Maybe they get, a second VA because sometimes, the clients don't understand that we have areas of expertise as well. And so it's important to say, I don't do social media. I haven't done social media for a long time since it it started changing so much and I couldn't keep up with it. So I always recommend to people, you know, get someone who really specializes in that, but I can take care of all these other things. So that's sometimes they just, you know, they don't know that, and it's good for them to know, to be educated.
But on the other hand too, you know,
it's also good to let them know that if you have a team, like we have teams, then you may have someone on your team that specializes in something. I know I'm the first point of contact for my team. So when I would submit one, then I am kind of speaking for my team member. If it's a skill set that they have, like website design or paralegal, I've already, you know, done the homework and vetted my team member, and I know what they are capable of, and I know the years of experience that they have. So I can, you know, convey that on the proposal as though, you know, for Augusta Virtual Assistants, but specifically for that team member that they would be working with. But I've got a question for you myself, Tammy, or Tracey, I'm sorry. I know that many don't follow the specific instructions in responding. So why do you feel it's important to follow the instructions given by a prospective client?
Well, one of the first things that is really important to anybody, and I think sometimes the clients are posting things just because that's the way their mind works. Some people, and that's me included when I post my own RFPs, I'm watching to see if people can follow directions. Whether they can take instruction, because so much of what we do is you know, in online, you know, it's by email, it's through task managers and that kind of thing. So communication is absolutely essential. And so when I post an RFP, or when I look at what I consider to be good ones, you know, things that are posted well, that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking to see what the client has asked for, and then if I'm looking at a proposal side by side, I want to see that the VA has gone through and addressed each issue that the client has. And so if that means, you know, that that they ask for, let me see, I'm trying to think of something quickly. If they're asking for, you know, do a video for why, you know, how you're experienced for this, and it's between 1 to 2 minutes or something like that. If they say, you know, that they would like to have 3 work samples. If they say they would like to, you know, you to detail your experience with other clients doing this, or, you know, this or that, whatever it is, I think that those are the things. If you don't specifically cover those in your RFP, then, you know, you shouldn't expect a call back. That's for sure. And I think if you don't have the experience in something, even address that area and say, I don't have experience with 3 other clients, but here's what I can tell you about what I know how to do. You know, like, address it anyway, even though you may not have the experience that they're looking for. You don't want to make it look like you've skipped over something simply because you're not paying attention to detail, or it's not important to you, or you're trying to shy away from something. I think honesty is always, you know, way better the best policy.
I agree. I couldn't agree more in that regard. Now, let me ask you a quick follow-up question to this, because you said that you prepared an actual form that was an RFP. Now, do you recommend everybody do that, or is it okay within an email to highlight everything? Or do you just recommend they attach an actual RFP to the email?
I always suggest to send an attachment, and here's why. Because emails can get lost, and there's actually another thing that I want to add. I'm just going to write it down, because if I start to chat, I might forget it. So
glad I'm not the only one that does that.
I know, I'm on camera, whatever. So it's really important that, to me, that you provide a document. And here's the reason why. And it actually it was verified. I did a screened RFP last week for a client, and she actually gave me some advice, because she was passing on her information to her team that were in her particular office, and they had to look at things and whatever. And so it made it easier for her to take the document and save it into a file folder that they could all access, where if it's just in an email, then what you would have to do is, or what you would make the client do, is form their own document, which you don't want, right? You don't want them having to do anything. When you provide the document, first of all, you want to provide one document. So cover letter and proposal all together, response to proposal all together in one document. Again, it just makes it easier for the client. and you want to have a naming convention. This is the thing I wrote down. Put your name on that folder, on that PDF. You want to make sure that when somebody looks at it, they know that it's the response to X proposal and it's from Tracey Daviero, you know? So it just makes things a whole lot easier. Those little things are really important administratively on a regular basis in our jobs, you know? So it's really important to be able to provide that to the client, make things as easy as possible for them to find you and to recognize, you know, that you know what you're doing. So.
These were great tips because I think so many people don't even think of some of those things, or they overthink it. One of the two. I think Lisa had another question for you, Tracey. You're muted, hon. You're muted.
I see you talking, Lisa.
Sorry about that. I've got two questions, but I'll ask this one first. What are your thoughts on the use of words bid, quote, proposal?
I never have been asked this question before. I think they're all the same to me. I mean, they are all the same essentially, but yeah, I don't think I have a real issue with the differentiation of them. I think maybe the bid and the quote probably make it sound a little bit more competitive, but I mean, let's be honest, it is, right? When somebody puts out an RFP, you are up against a whole bunch of people you don't even know who's submitting. I mean, sometimes when you know, I'll post one of my own or I'll do a screened one, I get 20 responses and sometimes I get 4, you know? So you never really know who you're up against, but I think it just makes it sound a little more competitive. What are your thoughts on those, ladies?
I have in the past, in my 6 years, gotten feedback from clients that bid or proposal could be construed as something that's negotiable. And you want it to be kind of absolute. I mean, not in the sense that they may want to add or delete, like you say, it's a confirmation in writing of a conversation as far as an actual proposal. Okay. And they could add or delete or clarify something that you've written down. But as far as the price, do you want it to be absolute or do you want it to be negotiable?
That's really interesting. I never thought of it in that perspective before. I think a response to a proposal actually is negotiable, actually. I do think that only because it is a proposal. You're proposing that this is how you'll work together. Now, it doesn't mean that the rate is negotiable, but for me, I've always thought that what I'm submitting to somebody is, you know, this is how I propose to work with you, right? And so if the rate per hour is the issue, well, then I have the right to say no. I say, no, that's my rate and that's the way it goes. It may be negotiable. What I often do is I will say to people, what is your budget? And okay, well then let's look at the proposal. We can, you know, and start pulling things out of the proposal that does not, that don't fit into the client's budget. But that's really interesting. I've never had this particular conversation before, so I'm going to note that and ask for a little feedback from my community. Thank you.
I didn't have quite a question, or maybe I do, but I just noticed that when we were talking about making sure that you have the skill sets and the experience, and I ran across something where, you know, somebody was asking for specific knowledge of a technology, and I think in some cases that is, you know, if I don't have it, I'm not going to bid. Do a proposal for it. But at the same time, there are so many apps that are similar to each other that I may not know that particular technology, but I could figure it out fairly quickly because, you know, because it's they're all similar. Like if somebody wants a project management system and I know of it, but I haven't ever used it. So how do you, you know, because I see an RFP, it's also a way of selling yourself. So how do you get through that?
I 100% agree with you. I think that, you know, if you think that what happens is when you talk to clients, whether you speak to them, you know, in the form of words on a proposal or whether you're speaking with them on the phone, your experience and your professionalism really come through in things exactly. Somebody's looking for help with Infusionsoft. A lot of people come to me for that. I've been working on Infusionsoft for a long time. And when people come to me, you know, they ask, do you have any experience with, what's the other one that everybody's using now? Anyway, whatever the other one is, and it's similar to Infusionsoft. I can have a conversation with them and say, well, you know, no, I haven't worked with that particular one, but I've been working with Infusionsoft for, you know, 10 years or however many years, and many of the CRMs are the same. What ends up happening is, and I actually, we had one posted the other day that said exactly that, you know, that somebody wanted experience with this or something else, you know, something similar, a CRM that's similar. And so sometimes clients understand that, you know, the basic building blocks of all of them are similar. But some of them, they want you to have the experience with their particular system because they probably don't understand how to use it. I know most of my clients, they work with a section of Infusionsoft, but they wouldn't know how to build a campaign to save their lives, you know, and that's with all due respect to them for sure. So I think that is sometimes what happens. But if you have experience and you're able to articulate that in your proposal, then I think, you know, the client is well advised to be able to follow something like that. So.
I think too that clients are getting where they know what they do well and they know what they need help with, hopefully. And so to recognize that is huge for them and for the VA to be able to help them. We're having some good chat going on too in our group there.
Okay.
So it's good to see that. I know that Tim mentions the IVAA group, which has a great RFP center. And I know, Tracy, you mentioned the groups that you also own. So, you know, that's another great thing. Also, Karen mentions that she said, may I suggest that you also put the date on the proposal, the date you send it. So that way we were saying, save it as your name and the RFP too. And so great points. Thank you, Karen and Tim. We really appreciate that. Any questions, please, you know, please put up. But he wanted to know if there were any other sites to look for clients as well as to find RFP requests.
There are a lot of them. I don't, VA Classroom used to have one. I think they still may. I know VA Networking had one for a long time. IVA obviously is very good as well. Any of the associations definitely have them. There are also quite a number of VA groups. Those are the ones that I've been using for years, you know, and so those are the ones I'm really familiar with. But I've seen in a lot of the Facebook groups, the VA groups and that kind of thing, there are other people who also have RFP sites. I don't have those handy, but I would love to collect them. If anybody has, you know, puts them into the chat, that would be great.
I know.
Because I know there are some, and off the top of my head, I can probably think of one or two, but yeah, you can sign up for people's RFP lists, and that's,
just
lots
to
of places.
mention,
anywhere you can, then that's a good place to go.
Right. As you said, VA Classroom University, because I'm a mentor in there, they do. Now it's a membership, you know, place. So
a lot of them are for the VAs, and understandably, right? You have to be a member to access the RFPs. But in terms of clients, and I tell the clients to go everywhere. It's free for the clients to place them. So. Yeah,
okay,
that's the advantage for the members.
Can we please say them again so we can write them down? You can also watch the replay, Tim, just so you know. You don't have to, you know, get everything today. But also, I just started a Facebook group called Ask a Virtual Assistant, because I'm trying to combine VAs with business people, because there's a lot of business people who want to hire a VA but don't have all the answers or know how to begin. And we've had some good discussions in there as well. And like you said, a lot of the Facebook groups that are virtual assistant groups, like sometimes we even post things like we need somebody for something. So a VA might even either subcontract another VA or say, I have a client who needs another VA for this, can somebody meet that need? So I've noticed that as well. So we'll also try to put in the chat for you, Tim, some of those things. Maybe Tracey can give us some of those in her group. Her group is the Global, right? Tell me again, Global Alliance?
Yeah, it's GAVA, G-A-V-A, the Global Alliance of VAs, and CAVA, the Canadian Association of VAs, CAVA.
Which you have to be Canadian to be a part of that one.
That's right, yes. All Canadian all the time.
Yes, great. Okay. Who had our next question? I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked with our chat. So,
Nanette?
I'm pretty sure this is something that most people would want to know, but the pricing issue, like how, what should you, what's the best way to address that when you're doing a proposal?
I would say, first of all, I think, was it Tammy who said earlier, read the proposal through, read the request through, see what the client is looking for. If they're looking for hourly rates, then quote an hourly rate. If they are looking for a package rate, quote a package rate. If they are asking for hourly and you have rates that work hourly, but you do, bulk purchase of hours, that kind of thing, provide as much information to the client as you can. My best advice in terms of the money is be clear. Is the most important thing. If the client wants to know, and I teach this all the time, everywhere you'll see me, the client wants to know what you can do for them and how much it will cost them. Those are the two things any client wants to know. They want to chit chat about, how you can do things and the technology behind it and how you got into it and how you're going to do things on a daily basis. But the two things that they absolutely need to know is what you can do so that they don't have to do it or get someone else to do it, and how much it will cost. So be really clear in your proposal about that. Make sure that they have no question about how much it's going to cost them. Sometimes when in our RFPs, the clients are asked to estimate how much time they think it's going, they're looking for. You ladies, I know you all know this, that clients way overestimate this, because whatever they're probably looking for help with, at least the ones who start out, they are talking about how much time it takes them, and I often talk about my house cleaner, and I just did a talk last week near here in Toronto, and I did a talk and told them about my house cleaner who we hired, I believe it's 3 years ago now. And I said, my husband and I fought for 2 years about getting a house cleaner, because either we didn't have the same days off. I'm off on the weekends, he's off on Mondays and Tuesdays. And one of us was always relegated to cleaning our house. And it's not a huge house, but it's big enough. And I could do it fairly quickly. One of my pieces of experience is that I was a chambermaid. And so I have a system, I have a process, which, as VAs, we have it for everything. So I have a system and a process, and I could do it fairly quickly, but I didn't like doing it. And so sometimes I wouldn't do the baseboards or the windows, and that, you'd kind of fit those things in as you could. My husband, he doesn't have a process. He does a really good job, but it takes him an hour and a half to clean a bathroom. And I'm like, holy cow, an hour and a half to clean a bathroom. So it was exhausting. If he tried to do the cleaning on Saturday, it's the only thing he would get done. And for me, or on Monday, whenever he was off. So we finally decided we were going to pay $40 for 2 hours, to get a house cleaner in. And it's unbelievable, because she knows exactly what she's doing. She's a professional. She has a better system than I ever did. I can hear her when she's here. I'm working, and she has her process. She does everything the same thing all the time. She does it very quickly. She does it very cleanly, in a matter of speaking, and she's in and out. She does a great job, and that's what we want to be able to provide to our clients. We want them, it doesn't take an hour and a half for your client to clean the bathroom, right? It might take her 15 minutes, but she does such a good job, but then there's the time differential there. So this is what I always, sort of talk about in terms of timing. Clients think they need 10 hours a week all the time, and chances are they probably don't, because what they're looking for is they're looking for somebody who's experienced. So sometimes you don't need to, if they ask for 10 hours, a week or 40 hours a month. You don't have to give them a 40-hour quote, but you need to get into a little more detail of what is it that they need. And maybe it's not even going to cost them as much as they think it will. And in most cases, that's usually what happens. I always say start lower and then grow and build with that client. So the clarity around your rate is really, really important. Answer whatever they ask for, but then give it your own spin and let them know that, you know, this is something that, you know, is workable and is really clear for them. Instead of just saying, you know, okay, $40 times my billable rate, here's your quote, because somebody else down the line who's submitting a proposal may be giving them better information. They need to be looking into it a little bit further and, you know, being able to give them a better rate, and you may lose the job simply for that. So
you have to put in the proposal that you're saying.
Sorry, can you repeat?
So clients relay that is a conversation you have with the client or a proposal. You know,
You're echoing, Nanette.
Yeah, I'm getting
sorry. There's like feedback or echo. Are you on your headset?
I'm on my headset.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Sorry, Nanette, can you just one more time?
I think that's great advice, but how do you get that across to the client? Do you put that in because you're answering their question exactly what they want, but at the same time you may say, well, you know, it won't take me that long. So how do you get that across?
Absolutely. And I would be able to put, I would put it in the cover letter to let them know that I've quoted directly, you know, based on what they asked for. But I would also be open to a conversation with them to let them know that, you know, that maybe some of the tasks that they require don't take the time that they need. And so, you know, it would be really, you know, I look forward to addressing this in our conversation. I've quoted your rate exactly as you've asked for it, you know, but certainly with my experience, you know, and streamlining, you can use a lot of different words that, you know, with my processes, and I think we could streamline your business, and, you know, I have some ideas about how that could look for you. That's the important stuff to put into a cover letter, I think. So.
Tracy, how long do you suggest an RFP be? A paragraph? Should it be bulleted, numbered? You know, how should it be laid out, and how long should it be? 1 page, no more than 2 pages?
I think it's really hard to say that, but Lisa, because I'm getting it. There we go. Yeah. If you could just mute.
Mute.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So I think that it's hard to answer that simply because some clients need a lot of information and some clients don't. You know, sometimes they ask. My proposal is typically 2 pages. My proposal template that I use. So I try to put everything into that. Sometimes it spills over to 3 pages. Sometimes it only ends up being 1.5 pages, depending on what the client needs. But I think it's really important to not look, try to go as long as necessary without being wordy, you know? So a paragraph, I think, is always too short. It doesn't really matter what anybody needs, because I think you have to include the scope of the job. And so that's, you know, a little section at the top where you're making it clear of what, you know, what they're asking for and what you're responding to. Your experience, your rate, your availability always, I think, is important to put in. And then, you know, any other details. I always put the payment terms in there so that people know right away how they're supposed to pay me. And then confidentiality, little paragraph. I always have the same thing in there. I think there's probably a couple more things, but in general, I wouldn't go with, I think somebody sent in, I think, an 8-page proposal to me once, and it's just too much. You know, if you look at the RFPs that are posted on most of these sites, the client usually drops in a paragraph, you know, and that's pretty much it. So they're not looking for something that's, you know, government ironclad and all this kind of stuff. They're looking for something that's a response to what they posted. So, but I say make sure that you cover the things that you need to cover, so that you know, they have the answers that they need, but without making it terribly long. So.
We have another question too from our chat, Tracy. I'm not sure that you would do this, but I mean, it's a viable question, Karen. She asked if you would be willing or able to share your template with us.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Okay, so what we will do is, if you don't mind emailing it to us, we'll put it up
Yep.
on our site, Karen.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yep.
va2va.com. So that's great. We appreciate
Perfect.
that very much.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. You know, it's funny because as a VA, as a coach and a teacher, I want people to do this right, because I think if you want to be able to have your VA business be successful, you need to be given the tools to be able to do that. And sometimes, you know, sometimes we don't have that, right? Like I worked with my business coach, and I got I don't think he detailed out the proposal for me, but I know I looked, you know, into them at the time. Mine has progressed a lot over the years, but you know, as somebody who's a big advocate of the industry, I don't understand why someone wouldn't want to help you, you know, do better and be better. And so something like that is super simple if that, you know, helps for sure. So yeah, happy to.
That's very generous. We really appreciate it, because so many won't share every little thing like that. But of course, we also know your business is also mentoring, so we also want to respect that as well. So we appreciate that very much. Ladies, did you have some other questions? We have about 9 minutes left. So did anybody else have any other questions that they wanted to ask?
I would, if you could give 3 or 4 great tips to responding to an RFP for our audience to take away, what would those be?
3 or 4 tips. Oh, sure. I probably have like 10. Absolutely. I think clarity is the #1 thing. Actually, no, I'll start. Professionalism is the most important thing. As I say, being on the receiving end of what's going out there, I know what I put out, and sometimes, you know, sometimes I don't get the job, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes it takes people a month to gather the RFPs or the responses from all of the places that they've put them. Like we just suggested a whole pile of places to, you know, to post your RFP. And so it's important to recognize that, you know, they might have gotten 100 proposals. And so, or somebody, you know, they may have posted it and then somebody went on holidays, because when they get back, they're going to handle things. It happens all the time. I see it more and more with the client interaction that I have. And so I think what's really important is professionalism. So, you know, asking, like things, when is the closing date, or you know, how, if they're going to be in touch either way. I think sometimes clients have the intention of following up with somebody either or, you know, whether they've submitted their proposal, whether it's going to sort of make the second cut or not. And you know, sometimes that gets overwhelming, and that just doesn't happen. So I think professionalism on your part. Make sure that you're submitting a proper cover letter. Make sure you're submitting a proper proposal to them, a document that, you know, as we've discussed, is named and dated and all those kinds of things, so that those elements of professionalism are really important. And when you send the email, you know, make sure there's just a little paragraph there that says, I'm really pleased to be able to submit my proposal for your review, and you know, it's attached, blah blah blah, whatever. And because lots of times what I've seen too is I've seen someone say, I'm really interested in your proposal. I saw your posting on GABA or whatever. I'd like to set up a phone call with you. But that's not what the client's looking for. They're looking for a proposal. And so it's really important to address what they have done. Brevity, I think, is another thing that's really, really important. Try not to get too wordy. I've had people submit 3 documents with a handout and, you know, tons of experience, which is wonderful, but a lot of the experience is not relevant to what the client's looking for. So try to be really brief and address the things that the client's looking for. You can give them a handout, there's no problem with that, but be clear in your proposal to say, you know, these are the things you've asked about. I've included a handout that, you know, that shows you some of the other information that we have and that kind of thing. But I think just really, really being brief and to the point, I think it really helps the client out, particularly when you think that if they're posting something on a you know, forum where people tend to respond to them quite often, that you want to make sure that that, you know, you're not making them wade through a lot of stuff that they really didn't ask for and they really don't want. And then the third thing is the clarity. Be really clear on what you can do, on what you can't do, what you're, you know, willing to learn, or maybe, you know, as Tammy says, what you had experience with you know, that is similar experience but not bang on. and just be really clear about what your rate is and how that will work, and let them know, you know, how to have a discussion with you about the rate, whether it's movable or whether it's packageable, or whether you think, you know, that their expectations of their time required is too much, whatever that is, you know, short little paragraphs, just being able to explain things like that, and just be as clear and as brief as you can, and professional. I think those would probably be my top 3 things. So.
Tim had another question for us. I think it's probably going to be different depending on what platform you're responding to, but he asked, what percentage of RFP responses are typically won on average?
I wouldn't have any idea what that number would be, Tim. Yeah, I mean, there are some people that may not even choose from the proposals that, you know, that have been submitted. They may just continue looking. Sometimes what happens is, you know, we've talked about, they're not quite clear on what it is they're looking for, or they're looking for something really specialized, or they're looking for something, I think lots of times what happens is the communication piece of it comes in, you know, and maybe you don't get the best person. Maybe they're not the best at evaluating proposals. You know, maybe they're not quite sure what it is they need. And so we do, like I say, we do screened RFPs, and I think that's really helpful for the clients who are looking, because to go through and honestly, as the buffer, I'll respond to VA sometimes and say, this is no good, you need to resubmit. You know, I had somebody respond a couple of months ago and literally just said, hey Tracey, I'm really interested in you know, that screened RFP. I'm like, nope, that's not the way it goes. The screened RFP has to come to me as though I was the client. And so I sent it back to her and I said, you know, I need you to send an actual proposal to me. I need you to let me know what it is that, you know, and I knew this woman, and I think it's wonderful that, you know, she felt that she could have that conversation with me, but I just needed the facts. I just needed the information. And so she did. She actually was the first person that the client called in the end. But it's important to be able to know that you're not doing that to the client as well, because sometimes the client will not take that extra step and they'll just say, no, you're not there. So,
well, Tim is pushing for a little bit more.
Awesome.
We're so glad you're with us today, Tim. And he says, what about anecdotal, as in each of you, what is your success rate be?
In terms of me submitting a proposal and being hired?
Right. I think that's what he's saying. As far as the proposals we personally submit, what is our success rate?
Oh, I'll go last. No, I'm kidding. No, I actually, it's funny because like I said, I got my first client by through an RFP. And so I think probably at that time I had submitted quite a few before I actually got the response for that one. But what happens, Tim, is you get better at submitting them, okay? In most cases, and I have to be honest, you know, my business went to referral only, and I did a lot of networking and that kind of thing. I wasn't relying on RFPs to fill my practice, so it's really important to know that as well, but the ones that I've sent, they were professionally enough that I almost always got, you know, I got shortlisted anyway if I was somewhat qualified for the position. But at the same time, tons and tons went by me that I never submitted, simply because either I didn't have the room in my, you know, in my practice at the time, or because it was just not something that, you know, that I was willing to do at the time. So I think if you do them well, I think you should always get shortlisted. You know, if you just answer what the client needs and be able to have that clarity, brevity, and professionalism, if that's what you want to call it, I think you can always get a call back. Getting hired is you know, I think that's always dependent on the client for sure. So, but if you can get somebody on the phone, you know, then you should be able to get to the root of what it is they need and go from there. So.
I would have to agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I would say that as far as RFPs, and of course, I've learned a lot from you today, so who knows? You know, and I agree with you, Tracey. They get better and better as you get more experienced and know how to shortly and briefly tell what your experiences are, so that they want to hear more from you. But I agree, when I can talk to somebody, I have a much higher success rate in closing that. So definitely.
And I think too, you know, that should be, that actually should be the thing that you're looking to do, is have that client set up an appointment with you to discuss things further. I don't think you should be looking to send a proposal and then have somebody say, awesome, you got the job. It doesn't work like that. But I think you should be intending for, you know, for them to want to have a conversation with you and then go from there. And then that's your moment to shine. And, you know, I had a closing rate of 100% for a long time. Every time I got somebody on the phone, they would sign with me. But at the same time, I didn't take calls from people that weren't sort of pre-qualified, right? I already knew they were a referral from somebody. I knew that what they needed in their business. I knew the systems they were using. So those are really important factors as well. But yeah, your main thing with the proposal, with submitting the RFP, is definitely getting that client to get you on the phone. So.
And following up, it's okay to follow up if you haven't heard.
You know, it's funny, I don't have a procedure per se for this, but there was one that I'm going to steal actually from my colleague. I believe it's Ruth, my colleague Ruth Martin. And I think it's her, she said she follows up the day after. And as soon as she sends it, making sure that they got it. Just by email. You know, you don't want to call a client incessantly and asking them a lot of questions. But if you submit the proposal by email, then follow up and let them know, you know, that you've sent it. You want to just follow up and say, I want to make sure you receive this. And then she said, I think it's her anyway, she follows up once a week until they tell her to stop calling, which I think is funny. So, or stop contacting her. So, you know, sometimes people don't do things quickly. We always hope that they're going to get ours, and, you know, before we even, you know, walk away from the computer, the phone will be ringing and they'll be so excited to hire us. But it doesn't work like that, you know, not when they're looking for a lot of responses from a lot of people. They're going to sift through them, and then sometimes they'll get overwhelmed and not really know. And, you know, and sometimes they just don't like what they see as soon as it comes in. So it's really important to be patient and absolutely reach out unless somebody tells you not to. I think that's really good advice.
And we're not always a good fit, you know, a client isn't always a good fit for us. And that's hard sometimes to admit as a VA, you know, because we want to think we can fit everybody. But the truth of the matter is, if it's not a good fit, you don't want that client because it doesn't work out well. So you definitely want to talk to them eventually and make sure you're both a good fit and everything else. We're actually a couple minutes over, but is there any last comments anyone else has to say? And we really enjoyed our audience participation today. Great questions everyone had. Did anyone want to say any last comments?
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us today. We really appreciate it. We were so looking forward to it, and you are a wealth of information. Thank you for sharing with us.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, ladies. I wish we didn't have the tech issues in the beginning, but you all know exactly what you're talking about too, because I listened in, and you know, it's important for us, I think, to be able to share this kind of stuff with the people who have questions, the Tims of the world. You know, it's important because this is how a lot of people are intending to grow their business and to build their business. So whatever we can do as veterans to help them do it better, and whether it's tools or advice or information or things like this, you know, where people can come and get the answers to some of the questions that they have. I think it's really important. And in terms of being an advocate for the industry, like I say, I think anybody who wants to be a VA should be able to do that. And so I'm really, really pleased to be able to come and talk about something that's so important that nobody talks about this.
It's
you
true.
know? Nobody does. It's a great topic, and I was thrilled to talk about it with you today.
Well, we're so thrilled that you could be with us, Tracey. And we'll make sure to put up your site on our, on the live chat here, as well as some of the others, and we're going to put up that RFP template.
Yep, I'll send you the template. So. Yes, awesome.
The va2va.com site as well. And your site again, Tracey, one more time.
yourvamentor.com is where I do my teaching and training, and then globalava.org is where you can become a member and look at that. So
wonderful.
Thanks very much, ladies.
Thank you, everybody. And we're taking June off, just so you know, because we're working on our big project. We're going to be doing, if you were with part of the conference a couple weeks ago, we spoke and we introduced that we're going to be putting out a course on how to become a multi-VA very soon. So part of June will be putting all of that, finishing touches on that. So we'll join you again in July. Have a great June, and we will talk to you, or I guess it'll be August, I'm sorry. So we'll take July off. I forgot we're already in June, and we will see you in August then. And bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.